a web any size. Catch his thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
Hello and thank you for downloading this latest episode of Amazing Spider-Man Classics. My name is John Wilson. This is another lost episode that I'm releasing that was recorded some 5 years ago. This is going to be episode 39 of the show. We're covering Amazing Spider-Man number 51. I have along with me in the episode my good friends Josh Bertoni and Don Grant, and Stephen Lacey is a guest again this episode like he was last time. If you are new to these lost episodes or just picking us up after a while off, I just want to remind you that there are several episodes that we recorded many years ago, and those are what I'm releasing now as part of the show's revival. I'm going to do this episode and then one more old recording covering Amazing Spider-Man 52, and then I'll be doing an episode where I go through and clean out the email inbox. All emails can be addressed to amazingspidermanclassics@gmail.com. And after that email episode, you'll be hearing brand new episodes from 2016 where new friends are helping me with my journey through Amazing Spider-Man in the 1960s. So, I hope your appetite is whetted for some classic Spider-Man goodness. And without further ado, here is myself. And so now we're going to take a look at the book for this episode, which is Amazing Spider-Man issue 51, which was released on or around May 9th, 1967, with a cover date of August. And Donovan Grant, the man with the plan, is going to tell us what Stan has written down.
With his hand.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought he wrote with his feet.
That's the
Approved
beast.
by the Comics Code Authority. In the clutches of the Kingpin, the Amazing Spider-Man number 51. The cover shows a bent over forward Spider-Man in pain, obviously, because the Kingpin has obviously bonked him on the head or other things, as he's surrounded by the Kingpin of crime and a bunch of rustled up thugs who are cocking their guns in mystery. So, the Amazing Spider-Man in the clutches of the Kingpin. What's that? The city his? Not if Stan Lee and John Romita can do anything about it. As the splash image is a gigantic Kingpin of crime crushing the entire city of New York. Take that, Bolorama. Take that, Convenience Mart. Take that, nuclear power plant. Oh, fiddlestick. At last, with Spider-Man gone, the city is mine. So we see the Kingpin crushing a model city of New York for exactly no reason, rest assured. And he's talking to a bunch of hoods and gangsters gathered together to talk about his domination over New York City's organized crime. He holds up a copy of the Daily Beagle, and talking about J. Jonah Jameson writing editorials about rumors about an underworld takeover. So he gives the orders to silence Jameson if he doesn't clam up soon. As some of the gangsters are protesting, Kingpin retorts at the end of page 2. Nobody cuts out until I say so, unless you plan to leave feet first. If it's action you want, I'll see that you get it. Big Turk! I got a list of service stations for you and your mob to put the squeeze on. Today is collection day at each one of them. Only we're the ones who will do the collecting. Ooh, that's menacing. So while that transitions, we see the Amazing Spider-Man back in action, swinging above high over the city. And as he finds the crooks attacking the service station, he runs in and a fight scene ensues. At one point, a gangster holds his hand way back into our faces and is going to karate chop him, taking his sweet time to do it. He takes so much time, he's actually talking in between it. Once I let this one solid karate chop, it'll all be over. Just hold that pose, mister. Here it comes. I'm really going to do it. I'm going to hit you. Stay still. I'm going to hit you. And that happens, but he took so much time that Spider-Man was ready for it and knocks him out. So Spider-Man beats the crap out of everybody, but Big Turk and his right-hand man, Shorty, get away. Spider-Man notices that they're all saying, oh, the Kingpin's going to be pissed off at this. So he says, who or what is the Kingpin? The cops arrive and Spider-Man flees the scene, but he also manages to take a lot of pictures. But then he realizes that, oh wait, he quit the Daily Beagle, so he has to worry about that. Meanwhile, we go back to Kingpin and his right-hand man, Flint, as they observe Frederick Foswell in the two-way mirror room.
Can we retcon that to being Smythe or Landon?
I think we should.
Landon? Two of Kingpin's life partner.
Love interest.
Life partner. He had 2 life partners in the animated series. For seasons 1 through 3, it was Smythe, and then for like the second half of season 3 up until the end of the series, it was Landon. But he and Smythe get back together in the last episode.
For no reason. Well, it's an alternate reality, so they had to have the true lovers meet again.
What I want to know is why he has this bedroom / detention cell right next to his office. Like, he just pulls back the curtains and there he is.
So he can see, because as we know in issue 52, when the Kingpin has a prisoner, he wants to keep track of everything that happens with the prisoner, because if you can't see what the prisoner's doing, then the prisoner might be able to get away and escape an elaborate death trap. I mean, he knows this. You always have to keep your eye on these things. You can't just, like, close a door and assume that everything went to plan. I mean, that's what happens to James Bond villains and, 1966 Batman villains.
It would never happen to a modern Marvel, Silver Age comic. Did I say modern and Silver Age to describe the same thing?
Yes, you did.
Modern for them, Silver Age for us,
The silver modern age.
I love how Foswell is so pimp in there. He's like...
I know, he's like, I'm going to survive this, definitely. So Frederick Foswell thought I would let him take over our operation simply because he had once been the big man before he supposedly went straight. Why don't you just polish him off now, Kingpin? He ain't doing any good in there.
No, you gotta do your Smythe voice.
I'm trying to get in the mood. Okay. Why don't you polish him off now, Kingpin? He's not doing anybody good in there. No, I have other plans for Mr. Foswell, and a good general never lets any manpower go to waste. Bring in our guest here, Smythe. It's time we've had a little talk. So Foswell's brought in, and a scene ensues. Foswell realizes that Kingpin realizes that he's too good to kill, so Foswell starts acting like his big man self. Relax, mister. I'm no cheap hood reaching for a gun as he puts his hand in his coat pocket. I do my fighting with my brains. Smythe, give me a light. Who do you think you're talking to, little man? You heard the man, Smythe. Give him a light. Okay, here. We'll get along just fine, Foswell. I like your style.
The fact that he just orders the thug around is the thing that Kingpin likes.
In fairness, I would have said the same thing.
Light my cigarette for me. I'm too
Too much
awesome.
of a boss. I like it. It's very 60s cool. But just at that moment, Big Turk bursts in, infuriated that Spider-Man is still around, and Foswell's shocked too. So Big Turk loses his crap and says, we've had it with you, fat boy. How dare you lie to us? So he knocks down Flint. Oh no, and now he has to die. And Kingpin's had enough, so he takes off his coat and goes into the fray. Big Turk throws a punch at him, but we see with Kingpin's big, meaty hands that he crushes it easily with the speed of a tiger. So he throws him instantly like he would in Ultimate Spider-Man. He says, "Get back to your rat holes, both of you. Never, as long as you live, forget that the Kingpin is your master." So he's been taking lessons from Blackie Drago from the last couple of issues. So they go back like the worms that they are. As
Nothing can stop a man with wings. I mean, a fat man.
a man with fat. So, Spider-Man is back in action, is he? Well, he shall live to regret it. But now, I must find a use for you, Foswell. I have it. You're the means by which I'll silence Jonah Jameson forever. What do you have in mind? As we cut to that, we see a scene where Jameson is throwing papers everywhere saying, "Rumors, rumors, rumors, but no blasted news. The city's in the grip of its biggest crime wave, and no one can find out who's behind it. And where in places is Foswell when I need him?" As we see a black guy talking to him saying, "Suppose we replace it with Ned Leeds." So this guy will certainly be no one, possibly. What do we think?
Possibly.
What does your index say? Because they don't identify him this issue.
The index. Oh, that's the Thor one. I'm not going to get very far with that. The index says that's the first appearance of you-know-who.
Okay, so interesting that we're getting the Beyonder this early.
I hate to say it because, he's the only black guy working at the Bugle, but he's the only black guy working at the Bugle, so I totally took it as a Robertson appearance.
Joseph Robbie Robertson, first appearance but chronologically last in Punisher. I'm going to guess that's YO is year 1, number 2, 1995.
What?
chronologically, he had a Punisher Year 1 appearance from 1995 that happens before this. But this is his first actual published appearance, although we don't get a name for him until next issue.
If you give me a second, I can look at Spider-Fan, which is always right and never wrong.
You get Roberts in the next issue, and you get his first name 2 issues later. I love these things. I love these so much.
Because me and Josh, I was reading, and like, me and Josh were joking about his 52 appearance because it's hilariously awesome. But then I saw, wait a minute, there's a guy who kind of looks like him in 51.
Who doesn't do anything except say, but what about Ned Leeds?
Something must be done.
Seconds later, Ned Leeds is in the office and Robbie's hiding. He's like, oh, let's make you leave.
Let's see.
Because we know the rules. Nobody must lay eyes on me except for Jonah. Because it's like Supergirl in the Silver Age, you know? Robbie's actually Jonah's secret weapon. And he's got to hide out at the Midville orphanage until, like, see.
Okay, so Spider-Fan says his first appearance was in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, number 51.
That's what we're on.
Yeah.
Spider-Fan.
So, interestingly, though, he's just here. He's here like he's always been here.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what I said, that he wasn't new, but we can talk about that like in the next.
Let's save the Robbie discussion for next issue because there's only one panel here.
Gotcha.
And what a panel it is. I mean, you know, like, you learn a lot about his character when he said, should we replace him with Ned Leeds? Suppose we replace him with Ned Leeds. Like, you know, Jonah's very, very, very angry, you know, and Robbie responds with the calm stuff, you know, immediately coming up with the solution. And we know that Robbie, you know, knows all the members of the Daily Bugle because he immediately pulls Ned Leeds out of his butt because, of course, that's the only other male staff person.
My sense is that the very first thing the character does to show up in the book is change the status quo of the sporting cast.
Now and forever.
You can replace him with Donald Duck just so that I get a story.
Seconds later, because it's a crucial time jump.
Seconds later, and Robbie is no longer in the office. When Peter, he jumped out the window. Like, he's like, I can't be seen. They're not ready yet.
Soon the world will know. It's like Mary Jane in Old Told Tales. You'll see me soon, but the time's not right yet. So Ned Leeds appears as he's beckoned, and as he's getting his orders from Jameson, Peter Parker shows up.
And Betty's looking really, really worried while she's getting his.
Well, what's going on? Seconds later, and Betty's behind him. But then the next panel, he's at his window, and like Betty's not in the office. And then like, what's going on with like teleporting people? Is it Mystique? And then like when Ned comes in, she changes into Betty Brant.
There was I think that Mystique was a Bugle employee at one point in the history.
Oh yeah.
She was, yeah. I'm not sure.
Oh, where was that?
I was unaware of that one.
Like, in the seconds that Ned Leeds goes to the office, Robbie disappears, Betty stands behind Jonah. Then when Peter comes in, Betty disappears. Like, oh, Peter's here in the same room with Ned and Jonah. This is going to get awkward.
Well, for no reason, Betty looks worried.
Yeah, that's the thing that I was thinking. Betty looks worried out of nowhere. But, you know, Robbie left Jonah's office to go and tell Ned to go in. And then he went off to do his thing. Betty follows Ned into the office because she's his fiancée, therefore she must follow him everywhere he goes throughout his life. She's actually behind Jameson still in that last panel, but you can't see her because the door that Peter has open is blocking our view of her.
No, I like the idea of this Mystique better. It sounds far more plausible.
She's worried because she was wondering where Robertson went. Like... Or she's worried because she's Betty Brant, and it doesn't take a lot to worry Betty Brant. It
really doesn't.
Yeah, Betty, like, she looks like she's going to, like, almost start crying again. But, like, are they saying anything dangerous? It's like, hi, Ned. Hi, Jameson. And she's like, oh,
no. No, I want you to get the facts behind the crime wave. So he's sending Ned off to work on crime stuff. Of course, the fact that he's already been working on crime stuff doesn't bother Betty at all, you know. But she's sad.
This totally isn't relevant to the issue that we're discussing, but like I'm flashed back into like issue 30 where like she's talking about she wants like a man to come home to like her pipe like Ned, you know, not a man who seeks out danger. But then I'm remembering that like wasn't Ned sent to cover like war zones back in the Dicko run?
Yeah, well, but
I want to call studios man that's sent into war zones. But okay, we'll carry on.
Ned's where the action is. He's covering the war, he's covering the crime wave, he's covering like the robbery of the great paper factory, and all the while Betty's like, she's like Roll from the Mega Man cartoon. She just cries in the background. Let's see. So Peter says, so Jameson tells Ned Leeds, Don't sleep ever. I want results, not excuses. And find me a photographer to replace that punk kid Parker. You don't have to replace me, Mr. Jameson. I'm back. You! The teenage traitor who walked out on me when I needed you the most. What do you mean you're back? Who wants you? Who missed you? Who needs you? We do, Mr. J. You just said so, remember? Shut up, please. Never mind what I said. So that bit of hijinks ensues, and Peter brings him photos of the action scene from earlier, so he's hired back without much of a fuss.
I really love the devious grin on Jonah's face whenever he's looking at the photos in the third panel on page 10.
Jonah looks kind of like menacing in this three-parter. He looks really like his wide-eyed expressions. So Peter learns that Froswell is missing, and as he's driving away, he passes by is it the Silver Spoon or the Coffee Bean?
They don't even say what it is. It's just a random place.
I say letters out there, but I can't.
Yeah, GRI.
Right. The Grifter Club.
It's a coffee grinder.
Sure. Yeah. It's what John says it is. So we get into an interesting scene with the supporting cast from ESU with Mary Jane in a murdered tiger coat. Save the animals. Where she says, "Oh look, there's Peter Parker. He's passing right by without even looking in." And just what I could have to use those way out wheels of his for a luscious lift home. That's the brakes, MJ. But don't despair. Harry and I can drop you off when we leave. I know why you're smiling, Gwen. It bugs you when I'm alone with Petey, doesn't it? And Harry says,
"In case you haven't noticed, Gwen is mindly."
It never stops. Sure, because Mr. P didn't ask her first.
Good old Mary Jane. Anything for a laugh, eh?
Do you think I'm being funny, Gwendolyn? I think perhaps it's time we were getting home. So interesting.
Then notice that when Harry says that Gwen's his date, he and Gwen are both like, smiling as if, it's just a joke.
I really, really like Mary Jane teasing Gwen in this scene. I mean, and I can just imagine Harry getting all sad on the inside after that because, Gwen didn't deny it, and whatever.
So we cut from that fight of fancy to Peter's driving by on his motorcycle and have his spider sense go off. His spider sense goes off because, let's see, what is that building? The Swanky Private Club, which is by title, is currently being robbed by the Kingpin's men. He changes it to Spider-Man, busts through the window Batman style, and beats the crap out of everybody before someone throws a gas grenade. The gas grenade blows up a large section of the club, and parts of the rafters at the top of the ceiling are falling down. Spider-Man holds them up so people can get out in time, and swings, but before all that happened, he did manage to throw a spider tracer on one of the thugs' coats. We cut into the Daily Beagle throughout the night as the men are grabbing and kidnapping J. Jonah Jameson to be brought to the Kingpin. And we got to the Kingpin saying, "Now, I know what a busy man you are, so I'll come right to the point. I want you to stop steaming up the public about the so-called crime wave here in the city. In a pig's eye, nobody tells you what to write in my paper." Jameson's also blindfolded by this point, so he doesn't see the Kingpin right now, but he might later. "Excellent, spoken like the true crusader that you are. I applaud your obvious courage, but alas, you will live to regret it." But then more men come in saying that Spider-Man is back in action. Unbeknownst to them, the Spider Tracer is leading Spider-Man to their location. So, Kingpin makes a decision. "Foswell, would you be good enough to inform our guests that the Kingpin does not play games?" "What did you mention my name for?" "To be sure that you do not betray me. Once it is known that you've returned to crime, you can never turn back." And then Foswell
if they kill Jonah, though, it makes no difference.
"He's far cleverer, far more deadly than I thought. If Jameson doesn't play along, it'll mean his life." Foswell thinks, because I know my voices aren't very distinct. "Foswell, are you really there? Is it true that you've joined forces with the Kingpin? Never mind about me, Jameson. I'm advising you. Do what the Kingpin tells you to." "So, I was wrong to ever trust you. You're no better than that skunk Spider-Man." Because everything is connected to Spider-Man, obviously.
Obviously, in Jameson's mind, the entire world revolves around Spider-Man. It's an arachnocentric view of the universe.
Or Marla. Jameson probably, bursts into his bedroom every night. "You've been sleeping with Spider-Man, haven't you? Haven't you? He was in this bedroom."
No, what he does, he says, "Marla, would you put on the costume again tonight, please?" And she goes and pulls out the Spider-Man costume because Jonah secretly has issues.
Isn't it, what's her name? Joan at this point? Or she already dead?
Joan's dead.
Because Marvel hasn't appeared in forever.
Joan Jett?
No, Joan's dead. Joan Jameson.
Okay.
Joan Jett's dead. I don't know if she is or not.
No, Jonah, I swear I haven't been cheating on you with Spider-Man. I am fucking Robbie, though. Oh, how's he doing?
So Spider-Man is peering out outside the window and casts his spider signal through the skylight. The goons bust into the roof, and Spider-Man makes short work of them, and then the Kingpin realizes he's more dangerous than I thought. Stay back, Flint. I'll handle him myself. So it's Spider-Man versus the Kingpin as the Kingpin starts shooting from his secret cane, a ray blaster that looks like a gas gun for some reason. Spider-Man gets a couple of licks in it, and it looks like the Kingpin's finished at one point after Spider-Man destroys his cane, but the Kingpin cold cocks him right in the solar plexus. Spider-Man's dizzy, not realizing how fast the Kingpin is or how strong, but just as Spider-Man thinks he's got him by the coat, the Kingpin has a surprise Blofeld-esque gas pellet into his tie pin. So as Spider-Man is falling unconscious, Foswell says, "You did it! In just a couple of minutes! You actually defeated Spider-Man!"
Kingpin actually says, "Naturally, I never fail. That is why I am the Kingpin."
Dun, dun.
That was one of his most iconic lines of the 90s animated series.
Which we Crisis to Crisis, 90s animated Spider-Man podcast.
You should just fire us now, John, because we're not going to stop.
It's from Smythe to Landon, the 90s animated.
I would totally be on it. Spider-Man beaten. This is what I've always wanted, but not now, not like this, Jameson says. And then Foswell says it's the last line of dialogue. With Spider-Man finished, what happens now? Next, to die a hero.
Which, with him, down for the count and being gassed, and you have to die a hero being the tagline for the next issue, to me it really feels like Spider-Man's going to die next. I mean, obviously it's not going to be that way, but it seems like that's what they're trying to say. So it's kind of a cool cliffhanger.
Actually, in the next, I'll get to it when we talk about the next issue box, because I don't want to get...
It is ambiguous to which character.
They actually set up, they do tell you pretty much in the next issue blurb that someone's going to die, and when you read the next issue, which I'll get to in the recap, at different points they set it up as if, certain characters are going to be the one that might die, including, Ned Leeds, don't worry, Betty, because we're totally going to get married after I finish doing this. And I was telling Don last night that whenever someone tells their fiance, as soon as I finish this dangerous task, we're going to get married, that usually means that they're dead.
It's a horror movie equivalent of, I'll be right back.
Or okay. I think even in the 50s and 60s, we'll get married and have a happy ending, and then the guy dies at war.
Right. Thank you for that recap, Don.
Thank you for letting me.
In the clutches of the Kingpin. And just looking back at that splash page, does anybody else get the sort of Spaceballs Dark Helmet vibe whenever he's playing with his toys on his desk with Kingpin and all the little towers? I mean, why does he have toy towers of New York City on his desk?
They were Richards.
Hey, Dad, have you seen my model? What the hell?
Poor Richard.
Sacrifices must be made, son. Dad! I'm totally going to become a crime boss, and I'm going to be better than you, and everything. Okay, son.
Don't make me laugh.
Yes, but to be the Kingpin, you would have to shave your head, whereas I am bald naturally.
Oh, he's right. I would have to shave my head. Curses.
Which he will do in Web of Spider-Man.
That was retcon. That was not Richard Fisk that shaved his head in Web of Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't read the retcon. Who is it really?
It's this other guy. It wasn't Alfredo, because Alfredo was or it might have been it might have been Alfredo, but basically, when Richard Fisk is fat and bald and looks like his father, it's not really him, and Richard Fisk was the Blood Rose or something, and there was a whole case of mistaken identity. So, yeah, Richard Fisk never shaved his head.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, that's just weird. It's an early 90s Web of Spider-Man story called, was it The Name of the Rose?
Yeah. Yeah, you'll get to it, but first you have to watch Jurassic Park and every single other movie, because God forbid you read a 1994 comic before you've watched every single movie that was released in 1993.
Okay.
Deconstruction of John Wilson on Mason.
It'll kill the illusion for you, and then like Lily will know that you're not really in the 90s or something.
Right. Okay, so fucking you in the ass with 2 hammers.
Good job.
Not go there.
No, I have read it recently because it was 1991. I've already gotten past it. So A, you're fucking right, and B, you got your order wrong because I've already done that.
And C, you're just proving my point. You're like, well, I got past it because it's 1991.
I know, right? So it's like you're making fun of me and making me mad, but at the same time, you're totally right. So what can I do but laugh? So anyways, making fun of me aside.
On the splash page, I know it's just a little lighting effect, but the jewel around Kingpin's neck that's glowing away just makes me think of, is it John Jameson who has the jewel that turns him into Man-Wolf or a werewolf?
Oh, yeah.
He has that stuck in his neck, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
That his mother gave him.
Maybe that's how he got to be so large. He has a moonstone.
It comes back in the plot because his mother gave it to him.
There's a story to be told here.
Some win somewhere.
Did any of you guys ever watch Rescue Rangers?
Chip and Dale.
Did we not sing Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers theme the last time I was on this podcast?
I think we did have that theme song. That's right.
It's one of my favorite bloopers ever.
Like, Google image Fat Cat, and he's totally like a knockoff of the Kingpin, right down to like, okay, he's not wearing it this episode, but in like the old episodes of the show, he had that same jewel that the Kingpin had around his neck. And it was like a plot point that like Chip and Dale had to like get it off his neck. So of course there was a musical number where like Chip is like pretends to be like a hula dancer to like try and cut it off of his neck in the middle of the song.
Right. Because that's what hula dancers do.
Is Fat Cat totally not Wilson Fisk as a cat?
I think this general idea, it starts like, because Kingpin's a ripoff of like the dude from the Maltese Falcon. So I think this general idea of like a fat crime lord who has a cigarette cane and everything is sort of like, it becomes, I don't want to say a trope, but it becomes a recurring theme with ideas of crime bosses.
So on page 2 at the top, the moms are like, okay, Kingpin, we voted to let you take over. Now what? Yeah, now you're talking to what's happening next. I'm guessing that, like, before this issue started, like, Kingpin was playing with his models for a while, like, building up the buildings and putting them all together, and then he smashes them, and the mobsters are just getting tired of it at this point.
We've been here for 4 hours.
Looking at this picture of Spider-Man.
We've stared at this model building long enough. Now we have to do it to the real city.
But first we must destroy it. Leave no evidence.
And because I'm never one to give up the opportunity for a really cheap joke, at the top of page 3, the first panel, Big Turk says, "Service stations? I thought we were in the big time." And Big Turk is 600 issues too early.
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought of like the Daredevil character whenever they said Turk. Hey, Turk, it's Big Turk. Look at Turk.
Yeah, that's what I think of. Just because you can't have Kingpin without Turk somewhere along the line.
Different Turk, because that Turk's black, unless he went to that Lois Lane machine.
And he's not like Big Turk. He's kind of skinny and has a mustache and everything.
Or the reverse Michael Jackson machine.
Can I ask, what is a service station?
A gas station.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have generally, lots of cash in their registers and everything.
So there could have been an opportunity for a big explosion in that fight sequence.
Could have been.
This was too horrifying.
They were going to punch the petrol until it explodes?
Well,
no one's got guns.
They have guns.
Where?
Page 3, panel 3. There's a guy with a gun. And then there's another guy with a gun, and Spider-Man takes their guns away with their webs and says, "Can I borrow those guns, fellas? Thanks a heap."
Right. Well, he removes the guns from the fight straight away. It's not like they were just going to, "We've got your money, now just excuse us while I take this close-range shot at the..."
Well, that's why he took the guns away, because they were right beside the petrol. Which I say for you, because I mean gas for us.
Yes. Well, it's not gas, because it's a liquid.
Gasoline. Ooh.
Which is
it's
just
a weekend,
bullshit.
no education tonight or today.
No, just all the stuff around petrol stations is just making me think of that wonderful bit towards the start of Zoolander.
I have not seen Zoolander.
I have not seen Zoolander.
Oh, come on. The petrol fight where all the models fill up and there's like, "Petrol fight!" And then they're just hurling petrol at each other and squirting it out the thing at each other, and they have a smoke.
Afterwards.
Which is the most logical thing to do.
Yeah, they obviously blow themselves up. It's just to highlight how fucking stupid.
Oh, good. I'm glad that there was some realism in the Ben Stiller movie where he's like an androgynous model.
As I forgot to mention on page 2, especially the last panel on that, the inking seems really, really heavy on Kingpin.
I was thinking the same thing. I wasn't sure if it was just the way the scan was done or what, but yeah, really heavy inks on the Kingpin, more so than the last one.
Probably. I mean, it's black and white. I can't tell.
I got a note for page 4, which was, you kind of covered most of it, which was the just hold it whilst I hit you, gonna hit you anytime soon bit, but there's the perspective on that where he's stretching his arm out is just really nice and interesting.
It is. It's good. It's good perspective. Like, you get the sense that the guy is really reaching up to give him a big sock on the back.
Yeah, unless you read any of the words, obviously.
True. And then the freaking exposition. It's like, Spider-Man is hit, and then they automatically assume he's down. He's like, oh, there, you hit. I don't get it. I thought he was a dozen times stronger than any ordinary Joe. How come you knocked him out with one blow? And like, Spider-Man's not on the ground. He just like got hit. That's like me pushing somebody, and before anything else can happen, I'm like, I don't understand. You're like 200 pounds. Why are you being pushed? The logic is really weird in that panel.
On page 5, we have Spider-Man saying, "Say, I just thought of something," as he's punching everybody in the stomach. "I sure hope you chaps didn't eat heavy meals lately." Which, because the last thing we would ever want in a Spider-Man comic is for bad guys to vomit on Spider-Man while they're fighting, right? Right?
That would suck.
That would never happen.
It was a Brand New Day villain that was recently killed off in Punisher.
There's also speaking of Punisher, there is a very recent issue where like Punisher's fighting Bullseye, and Bullseye throws up in Frank Castle's face.
Really?
As a means for distraction, yeah. Like the last couple months.
Bullseye?
Yep.
Isn't he dead?
No.
It's Punisher Max, so I don't know.
They killed him in Shadowland.
Oh.
They killed him forever, never to return.
Well, they start to resurrect him. Like, they dug up his corpse, and he's like, and now I will resurrect him. And then Shadowland, and he's like, nah, we'll leave him dead.
Yeah. But, Bullseye thinks he can turn anything into his weapons, and so, if he's got a bit of it riding around inside him, why not use it?
I don't know. I just feel like there's so many other things that he could have done for a weapon besides vomit. I mean, shoot his fingernails at the guy or something.
Fingernail power.
Our powers combine in the form of fingernails. Okay.
Meg from Family Guy.
Another cheap joke, just because that's the mood I'm in today. Page 6, panel 2. When I thought I was finished with the Spider-Man bit, I told Jameson where to get off. I love 60s lingo. It's always so perverted.
Was that before or after he came too close to him from behind?
Dun dun.
I like the fact that on page 6, panel 3, that Kingpin was nice enough to like give his prisoners a bed to sleep in while they're awaiting their death.
There's even a pillow and sheets on it.
He wants to have them. He's a man of
Well, I mean, he's civilized,
Yeah. What exactly is the Kingpin doing with his row of buttons? He clicks one of them, and nothing happens.
The curtains move. He reveals Sam Foswell there.
What if he's not even looking? What if he presses the wrong button? And,
surely if he was clicking to open the curtains would open on the next panel.
Okay.
Open already open curtains.
But according to the script and the art, he says, "I will slide the drapes back and observe our captive through the hidden one-way mirror." So that's definitely, expositing what he's doing in the art there.
I just love if he pressed the wrong, he's not looking at the button, so if he pressed the wrong button and the room blows up or something. Whoops.
Or like
into the piranha pit.
Or like it's the Austin Powers button where that button Austin Powers has on his house where it turns his room into a nightclub and there's dancing girls. When I saw you.
That'd be quite awesome. Or like I don't know, he buzzed the wrong, he's pressing the wrong button and Vanessa walks in. You wanted me fixed here? Wait, what? This crime crap again? I thought I told you.
Vanessa, this is just a gentleman's meeting. Who's that guy in the one-way mirror? This is a flat-screen TV show. We're watching a new reality series. Wilson Fisk. First of all, flat-screen TVs won't be invented for another few decades. Now, good day.
We have possible here for you, sir. Excellent. Now get rid of it. Or get rid of him.
Going to page 8, when I first read this comic, this scene rather surprised me because I had never seen the Kingpin brawl before. You know, it's just like in the 60s and 70s, this is what Kingpin does. He's a crime boss, but he will also bust your shit up. And here is the first example of that, of course, because this is second appearance. But in the 90s comics that I had read as a kid, that's not what the Kingpin's like at all. So whenever I first read this story, I was rather surprised that that's what the Kingpin was going to do.
Well, this is a thing that I think it's very inconsistent in general media that, like, Kingpin is a part of this because there are times a lot in these early appearances that we'll see where he exhibits superhuman strength, and it's just not possible in any form or fashion. He's not a superhuman. He's just a big, strong guy. And I like the idea that he's stronger than he lets on, but whenever he goes toe-to-toe with Spider-Man, unless he's just crushing him with his grip, it is a little hard to buy.
Isn't there a suggestion at some point? Someone tried to retcon it that he was a mutant, a very low-level mutant, but his prowess was a mutant ability.
I haven't heard that, but it's possible.
I have. I know what you're talking about. I don't know where the reference is, but I have heard that stupid idea. I mean,
let's see what Wikipedia has. Wikipedia confirmed that Mystique worked at the Bugle, so...
Yeah, I have it up right now. It says he has no superhuman powers, but he does have a great deal of strength, including enough to hurl people across the room, rip limbs off of people's bodies, crush a man's skull with his bare hands, leave imprints in concrete. I would say that he does have beyond human strength, if not necessarily, oh my god, you're so cool, Superman kind of strength.
I'll give him no bigger than maybe enhanced strength, but it has to be naturally achieved. Otherwise, like for instance, he says so much of the time he says, only so % of my body or so is made of fat. Like he has a serious layer of fat. He can have muscle with it because when you gain muscle, your muscle grows even though it may not show because of the amount of body fat percentage is just that. It's not a show of how strong you are because he can be as strong as he is while looking the way he does. But
I think the only reason he has that line is just to say that, look, I'm not fat. I'm muscular. I actually have very little fat. Everything you see right here is muscle. I don't think he's saying any abnormally small amount of body fat. I think it's just to belie the visual impression.
It's also the fact he has a double chin. That is a fat index, but he's more muscle than fat. But it's a fail on the writer's part because the amount of fat percentage he has obviously goes over the muscle. You're not going to see a six pack under him because of the fat index, but
right.
He does have a strong abdomen because of the muscle.
No actual normal musculature would ever make a person look like this.
Yeah. I remember there's I'm a fan of the Street Fighter games, and there was an animated movie where they had the character E Honda, which is basically the Japanese Kingpin, a big fat guy, and as fat as he was, they drew a six pack on him, and I was like, that's impossible because a layer of fat will cover. Everyone has a six pack, but the layer of fat covers that up, so you can't see it, even though you do have a strong stomach. So whenever the Kingpin has all these strong muscles, it makes sense. But for him to say, "Oh, I have 1% body fat," it's well, you still have a double chin, so no.
Yeah, he's not really drawn like he doesn't have any body fat. He definitely does have body fat.
I do kind of find it funny though. I mean, I love the idea that he brags about it every time. But whenever if he can out arm wrestle Spider-Man, that's not impossible. That's not possible.
And of course, because he's so big, he's going to move faster than we expect him to. He's faster than I expected. He's so big.
I don't know how possible that is. I mean, Spider-Man has human speed, so he can be faster than Spider-Man can expect, but to be faster than Spider-Man's bull stuff. I don't know. What do you think, Lacey? The way they portray the Kingpin's abilities.
It gets a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for?
Fantastic.
It's certainly not this. Well, once Miller takes over him, because that's my biggest area of experience is from the Daredevil 160 whatever onwards. It's more like his martial arts. Here he's just brawling, isn't he?
Oh, you're right. He does have. I saw that in the Name of the Rose stuff when he's working out with his son, or his not really his son, Richard. That's they do some martial arts training. But yeah, here it's just brawling.
Yeah, this is brawling. I mean, one of the first. Actually, I don't want to make this point next. I want to go and grab my trade so I can talk about it in a bit more detail. But there's one of the first times, the first time Frank Miller ever hands him is he's doing a martial arts workout. But here he's just fighting. He's rather strong, and there it's made a little bit more realistic in that he's trained. He's following specific disciplines and patterns in what he does.
It was a big gag in the 80s that, and I think it was Don that said this, or it might have been somebody else, but I remember one comic fan who I spoke to said that, it annoyed the piss out of them that every single time you saw Kingpin in the 80s, he'd always, take his clothes off at a moment's notice to, do martial arts training. He'd be, sending some men so that I could, like Craven with his animals, he'd be, sending some men that I could beat up.
I think in this next appearance, is this next appearance the Randy Robertson appearance?
No, his next appearance is the Brainwasher story.
Okay, well, in one of his soon coming appearances, he says, "Come on, you bums, let's see how strong you are." He strips down to his skivvies and just fights people at a moment's notice. I think he does it all the time. Every other appearance he has, he does. I've seen it in the Stern run. I've seen it in the Miller's run of Daredevil. I've seen it, and I think. I see it every now and then. It's like Spider-Man swinging on throughout the city.
Josh, you've been quiet for a while.
I really wish I could pull up my Gwen article to talk about what I thought about that scene at the time, but so I could sound deeper, because I read a lot into those scenes back then. There's really not a lot to draw from there, except for what's on the page. It's obvious, Gwen is dating Harry, all jokes aside, oh, they're all smiling, but Mary Jane's well, you really want to date Peter, and it's kind of Harry doesn't even figure into the scene. It's this conversation between the two girls, this understanding between them.
He's talking to himself again.
and Harry just happens to be there. Well, I know that you want to date Peter. She's well, I know that you know that I want to date Peter. And he
do you think
Mary Jane a little more?
I want to date with Gwen Stacy. Mary Jane, you can take a ride with us too. And then he's thinking in his head when he's giving Mary Jane the ride home. Yeah, Harry Osborn used to spend every night alone in high school, and now look at me, Gwen in the front seat, Mary Jane in the back seat, and they're both thinking about Peter.
Sucker. Well, it's also it goes back to the last issue where it does make Gwen less stupid than you would think. Oh hey Tiger, look at that cloud in the sky. Does it remind you of weed? Or she is thinking. Gwen's not saying anything, but it's obvious that she has feelings for Peter. And I don't know. I think it's interesting that Mary Jane's is the one pointing this out rather than anybody else. I don't know. I find that kind of cool.
Yeah, I do too. I like how Romita differentiates their faces. The face that he draws there for Mary Jane in the final panel, that could be Gwen's face with white hair somewhere else. But here, for the sake of the two girls, he's differentiated the two faces.
I think...
Yeah, there's nothing worse than an artist, and you see it fairly regularly nowadays, where each male hero will have a completely different face, but you put two or three women in the same one, you realize, yeah, you're just drawing the same face with different hair.
Well, this is something that Romita does, because if you took off the hair from Gwen and Mary Jane, they do look different. Mary Jane has the divot on her chin and the dimples, and then Gwen has the cheekbones and different eyelashes or eyebrows.
Yeah, their eye shapes are slightly different. Their mouth shapes. Gwen's mouth is sort of wider and thinner, whereas Mary Jane's is sort of fat. That's not the word I'm looking for.
I know what you mean. She looks like she does have fat on her, but I think she's just more like I don't know.
She just has a dimple in her chin, in her cheeks.
Yeah. I wonder if Gwen was embarrassed by this because, she didn't really have a, catty retort or anything, so maybe she's surprised that Mary Jane pretty much called her on it, and, she just doesn't know what to say.
Do you think Harry was clueless the whole time?
Yes.
He has no idea what the girls are saying to each other?
Yes.
I think, honestly, I think that Harry understands some of it, but he's kind of in deep denial. he calls Gwen his date. It's it's a possessive thing that like his relationship with Gwen is like getting a little like more serious in his mind, but in his mind only. And if he says like that Gwen's his date out loud, it makes it more real.
I think it's interesting that it's just that like Mary Jane almost like sees the future, whereas like I might even she doesn't hint that she's going to end up with Harry for a little bit, but I just it's like why in the narrative of the story is Mary Jane all of a sudden this sage?
Well, it's because Stan needs someone to like do exposition. It's just like Betty Brant saying, "I wonder who Peter likes more, his date or his friend's date," which Betty Brant has no logical reason for thinking in issue 47, but it's to remind the readers of this love triangle. And I think in this case, Mary Jane's the best person to exposit the situation, as opposed to Harry being like, boy, in a thought balloon, boy, what a laugh, I finally get Gwen all to myself, but all she can think about is Peter, who happens to be dating Mary Jane. Well, that pretty much sums up our love triangle all nice and neatly.
No, back to the action.
Which would be something that Stan would write, but yeah, because I'm looking at these panels again, and Harry is very quick to say anything for a laugh. So he's in denial about this. Like he does not want it to be true that Gwen wants to be with Peter. Like, so he's like making up. Oh yeah, isn't Mary Jane joking? And
he's, like a lot of times Harry's very very like, between your Mary Jane and my Gwen, and like he says, in case you haven't noticed, Lady Gwen is my date. Like he really wants Gwen.
Which kind of makes his comment a couple issues back whenever Gwen has a new hairstyle, and Pete, she's asking if Pete likes it, and Harry says he just likes it because you look like Mary Jane. Like, it makes it more malicious, like backstabbing the idea of them getting together so that he can stay with Gwen.
And now that Flash is in Vietnam.
Or just down the street hiding.
Or down the street hiding, he thinks, like, at last, my shot, like, I have no competition. So Peter, complicates things. In fact, depending on how influential Norman Osborn is, he's like, Dad, I like a girl, but, Flash. And he's like, say no more, son. He'll be in Vietnam by the end of the week. A day later. A day later, Flash gets his draft notice, and it has an Oscorp letterhead on it.
No, that's like literally like that's the equivalent of like, oh, I like this guy. Let me tell my dad so we can send him to Iraq.
That's like Bible stuff going on there. That's what King David did. I want Bathsheba. I will send her husband into the army.
You joke about that, Josh, and boy, do you joke about it. But like that's what happened in that '96 annual. Like Harry went to Norman for advice on how Mary Jane takes him more seriously. And at first,
Craven to kill him.
Yeah. Norman's like, you like a girl? We can't be having that.
What are you, son? Gay?
It's really odd.
So whenever Spider-Man is finally going after the thug that he pinned with the Spider Tracer, he's not using his Spider Tracer tracker.
Ooh.
Well, he doesn't say Spider Sense, but you infer that's what he means.
But haven't we established that he's not using the tracer anymore previously?
No, we marked the last time that he used it, but we haven't seen him actually go on. I mean, this is the first time that the creative team have shown him without the Spider Tracker. I can't speak.
No, I got what you're saying.
But on the bottom of page 15, even though he doesn't say Spider Sense, you do have the Spider Sense lines. Mm-hmm. According to my little tracer, the trail ends in the penthouse just ahead. With a Spider Sense.
Well, he says my little buzzer has never steered me wrong, or something like that at one point.
I forgot where we come down on it, whether we would prefer the device or the Spider Sense.
I think some of us said that the idea of the Spider Sense being a radio frequency thing is a little bit off. What do you think, Stephen? You weren't here for that discussion. Spider Tracker or no Spider Tracker?
As in, should there be one or shouldn't there be one?
What is your preference?
Sorry, I'm getting the tracker confused with the tracer because I'm mentally putting Ks into everything. Technically, he should have something handheld to pick up on it, but for the purposes of the story, it's just easier to go, oh yeah, my Spidey sense is picking it up. Otherwise, he's got to carry it around with him all the time. He's got to put it somewhere when he goes to attack. Otherwise, it's just a magically appearing thing that comes in his hand whenever the story needs it. So it's just easier to not have it, and I'm okay with that kind of shortcut.
No Spider Tracer, no hover chair.
Otherwise, he's going to have a utility belt or a backpack or a I believe you call them fanny packs.
don't look at me.
We called them belt bags when I was a kid.
Right, but if I said bum bag, you'd probably get the wrong idea.
Yeah.
He should really have pockets.
Nobody picks a spider costume because of the pockets. You don't go to a spider costume shop and say, "Oh, look, it's a spider costume. It has such nice pockets." Sorry, that was a bad British accent, Catherine Tate, Doctor Who reference. So, back to the show.
What was that in Doctor Who?
The wedding dress. Runaway bride.
Oh, right. Sorry. Ugh. David Tennant. Yeah.
Oh, no. Don't even go there.
I was fine until he grew into a petulant little whining shit of a child. I don't want to go. Oh, fuck off.
Kick him off, John. Kick him off now.
You know what? In an hour and a half's time, I can watch Doctor Who. Even have to watch it whilst I'm podcasting. I'll spoil the shit out of you lot.
Still not seen them. So.
So,
but yeah, screw David Tennant.
I'm actually kind of out of things to say about this issue. I mean, there's some cool action with the thugs, and there's the fight with Kingpin's kind of neat. But I don't really have a whole lot to say about the rest of the book.
Got the impossibly stupid spider flashlight thing, which I think I mentioned last time I was on here. But there's no way that if Spider-Man's just outside the window, he's making a spider signal on the floor that big with his flashlight at that angle.
Well, wasn't he upside down?
He's still outside the window. Kingpin doesn't have a skylight.
Yeah, I have to wonder what kind of lens he has that thing because if it's maybe twice the size of a quarter, unless he has some really big refractive lens going on the front of it, it's not going to make that big of a beam ever.
And to get that perfect circle, he's pre-warped the image on the lens so that when it's done at an angle, it'll then show up at that size.
It looks like an oval to me. It looks like a pretty flat oval to me.
Yeah, I think it's from the angle of the floor.
Looks circular to me.
Yeah, it looks like an oval.
But I mean, yeah, it's meant to look like a circle. I'm sure. I was just being silly because we have our own perspective on it, and we're over here at the side looking down on it.
Good point.
Another art reference or another art note is that like the panels during the issue are pretty close together, but once the Kingpin fights Spider-Man, the panels are a lot bigger and fewer.
I'm just really happy with the way Romita does have like a really good grasp of panel layout.
Yeah.
When he is doing conversations, when people are just talking, he does a lot of headshots and there are a lot of panels. Whenever the action opens up, the panels open up. And he just really takes the time to, make large displays of action.
Page 17, last panel on that. That's not a post Spider-Man ever wants to assume.
No.
All the Kingpin has to do is like just turn around with his other fist.
Well, to be honest, he's asking to be trussed up, have a lemon shoved up his backside, and then put in the oven for 3 hours.
He's about to kick the Kingpin in the face. He was only in that pose for like half a second.
Yeah, with his spider speed, no one even saw it.
But it's really interesting that that's the way they draw him right there, because it is a rather awkward position for the body. The gas coming out of the
out of his pose?
Out of the gem that's not on Spider-Man's bum. The gem that's on his Kingpin's neck.
Yes.
That comes out, that knocks Spider-Man down, and we have To Die a Hero.
I forget.
Naturally, I never failed. That is why I am the Kingpin.
Do do do.
This should happen for no reason. Like he comes out of the shadows, even though there were no shadows then, just to say that line.
The room was perfectly lit. How did that happen? How did you do it? I'm the Kingpin. I can do anything.
He buys his clothes at the same place where Norman Osborn buys his hats.
Speaking of clothes, my last note is that Frederick Foswell and Harry Osborn go to the same thrift store.
And the same hairdresser.
Oh my god.
Looks like it, doesn't it? Poor Jameson. He ends the note with a big old mask, blindfold on. Spider-Man, beaten. It's what I always wanted, but not right now. Not like this. I can't even see what's happening.
I love how he's like, not like this, as if like, how did he want Spider-Man beaten?
This is exactly how he wanted him beaten. He always wanted the bad guys to beat Spider-Man.
In a few issues, he like holds Spider-Man down and says, "Look, Vulture, I have him. Beat him up." Now,
oh my god, yeah, I don't like Jameson doing that. That's ridiculous.
But now, granted, he might mean not like this because like now Spider-Man can't save him from being murdered.
Yeah,
but
that's it.
I mean, and again, there's no other superheroes in New York because when Spider-Man's back, the Kingpin's like, it's like, Spider-Man stopped us. You didn't tell us that he'd stop us. It's like Thor could have hit him on the head with the hammer, while Daredevil, hit him with the billy club, and the Invisible Girl put them in a force field, and then, the Avengers, it's... The thing that bugs me about the Marvel Universe is it's a universe only when it's convenient to be a universe.
Right.
Well, in fairness, that's the only way you could tell serialized storytelling with each character. Otherwise, they would run into each other all the time. So, like,
they don't have to run into each other all the time, but like they're because it's a big city, but they're acting like there's no other heroes in the city.
But they kind of have to. I mean, I guess with New York, they can like, oh, Spider-Man takes Manhattan, someone takes the Bronx, someone takes.
No, Jason takes Manhattan.
Jason.
Sorry, that's a movie title.
Muppets
one of the Friday 13th ones, isn't it?
Yes.
Muppets take Manhattan.
The Muppets take Manhattan.
Yeah, the Muppets. That's what I'm familiar with.
The biggest difference between those two films? There's a lot of similarities. The biggest one is that in one film, the characters actually get there, and the others, they don't. If Jason takes Manhattan, he just about gets to Manhattan by the end of the film.
Yeah, by the very end of the film, he finally lands on the island, and...
Yeah. And then you're like, wow, that was the longest pre-title sequence ever. Oh.
That was it. So, part 2 of the big Kingpin story. Spider-Man No More is kind of, it was just for the one issue, but it started the Kingpin story, so it's kind of cool. But what do we think of this issue as a whole?
I like it.
I missed the boat on that. Yeah, I like it too. I think it's a lot more action heavy and a little less interesting to talk about, but I still enjoy it for what it is, and it further establishes what kind of character the Kingpin is with the fight scenes with him and everything, and his style.
Yeah, it's definitely the Kingpin's issue.
The ads in this one are pretty similar to what we had in the last episode, so I'm not going to talk about all of them. But there is the house ad for on sale now, not brand Eck. And the first cover has Doctor Doom, The Thing, Reed Richards, Susan Storm, the Human Torch, the Silver Surfer, and I'm not even sure who that purple guy is, all cowering and scared, and the cat, all cowering and scared from Forbush Man. It was this little guy. He's in red pajamas and has a cooking pot turned over on his head to cover up his face. And
they sound like a Ma Hunkle from DC.
Yes, very, very Ma Hunkle, actually, from DC.
It's not just pajamas, John. It's a onesie.
Yes, it's the kind of onesie pajamas that adults wear that have the flap in the back so you can go take a crap during the night.
That's something we needed to know.
This is a parody comic that would last just under 2 years. It goes bi-monthly for the last few issues before it finally runs its course. Lily loved this series. We read every single story and every single issue that even that involved any of the character that she cared about, and she loved it. She thought it was great. It's pretty clever. It's full of pop culture references. It's full of it makes fun of DC characters all the time because they change the looks in a silly way and they change the names to silly names like Natman and Rotten and Superman and stuff like that. So
yeah.
It runs a strip that sort of chronicles how Superman started out as this sort of, mild hero and then got all these powers, over the course of the years until he became uninteresting. Sort of makes fun of him that way. So yeah, it's a fun book, but I can only take it in small doses.
I think was it Sergio Arianes or somebody who like continued in the 90s, or was that another title completely? I've seen a lot of like parody titles like this in the 90s.
There was a What The title in the 90s.
Right.
Sergio Aragonés, he's massively known for Mad.
Right. I don't know if he did that with Marvel stuff or not.
I think he may have.
Aragonés. Emphasis on the last syllable. Yeah, he did Gru the Wanderer.
Which at one point was published by Marvel. But that's been published by just about everyone going. If you've had a comic company that's lasted more than a few years, you've published Gru. He did stuff for Plop.
Yeah, I have a list
just
of
not a good name for a magazine at all.
I have a list of his titles here. It doesn't include anyone that I recognize.
I have the Solo issue. Solo being the DC anthology project where each issue was completely drawn by a different artist, and it would be short stories and stuff. And his issue is fantastic.
And a Batman story by Mark Evanier, to bring it full circle.
Yes.
From last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on just through the book to see if there are any ads that are new that I can make fun of. I don't see...
you got the government surplus ad.
Just got to that one. Government surplus. A whole bunch of stuff. Save hundreds of dollars. They have pictures of Jeeps and parachutes and rafts and equipment. So yeah, mail a coupon today.
It seems to think that Jeeps can be bought for $88, boats for $60, aeroplanes for $139.
I want to get an airplane for $140. That'd be awesome.
And another $18.70 for the parachute.
The bullpen bulletins bring us fabulous facts and frivolous fables for frantic fans, faithful friends, and fiendish foes. Where we have an official announcement of the comic Not Brand Ek, but they say the wrong name. For several months, they're going to be calling it Brand Ek. It's the Brand Ek comic. So,
oh man,
that's
the DC war continues.
Yeah,
and they pissed off. No, they didn't. They pissed off. They were pissed off when the guy who wrote the letter last time put an exclamation mark at the end.
Right. We get notice that the first two of this year's king-size specials will be out in June, Sergeant Fury and Millie the Model. And then Daredevil and the Avengers will have specials out the next month with Spidey and the Fantastic Four in August. So be prepared for more annual coverage a few episodes from now. And following that, in September, are the Spider-Man and Fantastic Four cartoons, which get re-announced here. And those are all the ads. Over at the Spider's Web, Richard Gromlich and Bill Granatus write a letter together. They want Spider-Man to talk less during the action because there's one point where he says like 20 paragraphs in the middle of one leap. And I'm wondering if they heard our reboot episode.
They must have.
They must have.
Somehow, in a time warp.
Let's do the time warp again.
It's just a jump to the left.
And then a step to the right.
With your hands on your hips.
A big and easy and tight. Well, it's a pelvic thrust that really drives you insane. Say, any of you guys know how to Madison? Brad, please, let's get out of here. Not until we use a phone, Janet. But it seems so unhealthy. They're probably foreigners with ways different from our own. They may do some more folk dancing.
Y'all have seen that movie way more than I have.
I've not seen it at all. My dad sings the songs a lot.
I was 17. I went to a Halloween party as Frankenfurter, except all I did was wear some tights.
Nice.
Well, like now that I look at the colored copy of 51, like it just has the like Kingpin and everybody else in like a black background. In my copy, like there's a full in drawn in office.
Where are you looking?
The cover of issue 51.
Oh, you have like details of an office drawn in on your version?
Yeah, I have the wall and the floor and the curtains and everything.
Weird.
Initially, it's just a pool of light in darkness, and Spidey once again raising his ass to the heavens.
That's consistent everywhere.
So in the letters page, somebody wants Spider-Man to reveal his identity to Martha Connors for some reason.
To Martha Connors, of all people.
It's really random. It's like, ooh, and he should tell his identity to Martha Connors. Like, that's like, yeah, and Batman should tell his identity to, Renee Montoya or something.
Right.
And Daredevil should tell his identity to Foggy's wife, but not to Foggy.
Not to Foggy. Definitely not to Foggy. Yeah, it is kind of random because she's appeared in, 3 issues in the entire run? I mean, he had just read them because this was never issue 47 was new, or 48, so 45 and 46 were just, recent, but still.
I love how he thinks it out, too. He's like, don't tell Billy, because Billy's too young to keep it a secret, and don't tell Kurt, because if Kurt becomes the Lizard, he might remember.
Right.
Even though he doesn't remember that he's actually Kurt Connors.
We also have complaints in the letters about Peter getting too cool for the character to have the same appeal. He's no longer the loser that he's supposed to be.
Written by that writes itself.
Yeah. How do y'all feel about that? Have we talked about that? Do y'all think he's becoming too cool?
He's still socially awkward.
Does Peter need to be a hard luck hero in order to be the same character?
He just needs to be a normal guy. I don't think he was ever like when in the Ditko era and the very early stuff. He was a socially awkward based on him, being an outcast because of his intelligence and everything. But when he got his powers, he's not really cool. He's just more assertive. He's not like Fonzie or anything. I don't think the idea that Spider-Man has to be a loser is so wrong-headed. He just needs to be a normal guy because the concept of the everyman isn't somebody who's on the outs of people. It's just like the guy who just goes through the same things that everybody else does.
Right.
That's what makes him appealing. Not that he's an outcast. As I think that's too much of a trope into the other direction. If he's more of like a middle ground character in terms of social interaction, it makes it more appealing because we can relate to it rather than pigeonholing the idea that he's one way or the other.
There were 2 letters back to back. S. Alan Weidler, he tears Mary Jane a new girl hole in saying how terrible she is for Peter. And then Warren Bloom comes and does the exact reverse, saying that Peter should stay away from Gwen. So I guess we're still in the 5 minutes that the Betty Veronica vibe lasted.
I put in my notes shipper letters because and actually it really is shippers because when people watch a show like iCarly or Glee or something, they'll they'll note the most minute things look at the way that this person did this here, this shows just how right this person is or how wrong they are. And one person's all Gwen wants to do is show off. Look at her, all she's doing is showing off. And then the other person's look at Mary Jane, when there was danger, she instinctively did this. That shows that she's right for Peter.
Right.
There's a name for that. I can't remember what it is though. Where they take things and they look into them, like how they are romantically involved. I was looking at it on TV tropes the other night, but I can't remember.
On iCarly, it's a big thing in the fan base, and they did an episode of the show where they broke the fourth wall and focused on it. Where there's this one fan that has a big blown up image of Carly and Freddie from season 1, where she's smiling at him in a screenshot, and it's look here, Carly's smiling at Freddie. That shows that Freddie loves Carly more than Freddie loves Sam. And they're oh no, I was just smiling at him because he had cheese on his nose.
And a while back, I'm not sure exactly how long ago it was. It might have been just the last episode or 2, but it feels a while. Someone asked us in our own letters, in our own emails, about when the Master Planner story started being heralded. And Jim Woods writes from New Orleans to say that issue 47 was the most enjoyment he'd had from Spidey since issue 31. So even at the point we're at right now, people are considering that story to be one of the highlights in Spider-Man.
Issue 31, wasn't that Man on a Rampage? Or that was 32. Issue 31 was when he started college. Yeah. 33 is when he let the thing off.
Well, 31 to 33 was the Master Plan story, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Same general area.
Right, where Aunt May lifts the pillars off her head, and
yeah, Aunt May does it. Sure.
I must do it for Peter. We'll never get his jacket if I don't. I did it.
Next issue. Boy, are we in a quandary. We don't know how to tell you how great our next issue will be without sounding as though we're boasting. You're going to see action scenes which will make you feel as though you're swinging right along with Spidey. Naturally, the biggest surprise of all is the fact that an actual death occurs in this issue. And the sheer stark drama of it will leave you breathless. So do yourself a favor. Promise not to miss one of the truly great adventure yarns of the Marvel Age of Comics. Spider-Man issue 52 is the latest masterwork from the Marvel bullpen, which has become a legend in its own time. So till we meet again, keep your webs untangled. Remember, neatness counts. Enough said.
Yay!
I think I kind of stole that from you, John.
That's fine. That's fine.
Like doing the voices.
So we will have the final portion of Amazing Spider-Man, the Kingpin trilogy, in the next episode. And that's going to do it for this episode of Amazing Spider-Man Classics. Thank you very much for listening. Again, next episode will be the final of these lost recordings covering Amazing Spider-Man 52. Then one episode where I go through the email inbox and clear everything out there to make room for new emails for our new episodes that will be beginning the episode after that. So, thank you very much for listening. My name is John Wilson. On behalf of Josh and Don, thank you very much for listening to Amazing Spider-Man Classics. Good night.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime, like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame, he's ignored. Action is his reward to him. Life is a great big bang-up. Wherever there's a hang-up, you'll find the Spider-Man.
And I'm wondering if they heard our reboot episode.
They must have.
They must have.
Somehow, in a time warp.
Let's do the time warp again.
Make sure
It's
you
just
put
a
that
jump
music
to
in
the
there.
left.
And then a step to the right.
With your hands on your hips.
A big knees and tights. Well, it's a pelvic thrust that really drives you insane.
Say, any of you guys know how to Madison? Brad, please, let's get out of here. Not until we use a phone, Janet. But it seems so unhealthy. They're probably foreigners with ways different from our own. They may do some more folk dancing.
I've
How
seen that
do
movie
you,
way more than I have.
See you.
So you've met my
faithful
faithful
handyman.
down.
Brought down because when you knocked, he thought you were the candy man.
Don't get strung out by the way I look.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
I'm not much of a man by the light of day.
Day. But by night I'm By night I'm one hell of
Hell.
a lover.
I'm just I'm the sweet transvestite
Da, 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 da.
from transsexual Transylvania. Let me show you around, or maybe play you a sound. You look like you're both pretty groovy. Or if you want something original that's not too abysmal, we could take in an old Steve Reeves movie. I'm glad we
Caught you at home. Could we use your phone? Shit, I've forgotten it.
We're both in a bit of a hurry. We'll just say where we are, then go back to the car. We don't want to be any worry. Well, you got
Cut with a flatwell. How about that?
Well, babies, don't you panic. By the light of the night, it'll all seem all right. I'll get you a satanic.
Mechanic.
Y'all have seen that movie way more than I have.
I've not seen it at all. My dad sings the songs a lot.
I was 17. I went to a Halloween party as Frankenfurter, except all I did was wear some tights.
Nice.
By the end of the podcast, we'll have done the whole movie.
I actually now that I'm looking, because I was looking up my own copy, looking at the
Just
scans.
7 days. Da, 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 da. I can make you.
Okay.
Dig it if you can.
Back on track. What were you saying, Don?